You're about to get your brand new Blackmagic camera. The only question is though, what media should you buy? Hello, my name is Jonathan Palfrey and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe as always, as it massively helps me out. Now today I wanted to talk to you about what media you should be getting for your brand new Blackmagic camera. It might be the Pocket 6K Pro, it may be the 4K, it may be one of the Ursa's. What's really great about Blackmagic and pretty much all of their cameras is they give you plenty of choice and options. Whether it's recording formats, whether it's how you're going to power the camera, or in this case, what media you're going to use with it. There's expensive options, there's cheap options, there's more reliable options, but it's a minefield out there of different ways you can go with media with this camera. And if you're starting out, or maybe you're looking to upgrade, where should you start and where should you go? And hopefully this video will help you out. So fundamentally, there are three different options when it comes to media for the Blackmagic cameras. There is SSD, there is SD card, and then there's CFast cards. All these options come with pros and cons, and that's what we're going to go through right away now. So let's start off with the humble SD card. Definitely the most affordable route to go, especially if you're not going for, say, V90 cards, where they do start actually getting quite expensive at that point. But if you're just going for a basic card, so like this one is a SanDisk Extreme Pro V30 card, they're very, very affordable. You find them on Amazon, you find them everywhere, and they're an easy memory card to find and use. Now, there is a negative though. The recording bitrate is obviously going to be very limited on a card like this. It may mean you can't shoot at higher bit rates, especially in higher resolutions and frame rates like 6K at 50 frames, for example. If you're just starting out, you may already have some of these cards, and if that's the case, that's fine and it works great. But you just need to be aware that there is going to be limitations on where you can and can't use these cards. Personally, I like having one of these in the camera anyway, just as a backup. Yes, it can't record at the higher frame rates and resolutions like the SSDs and the CFast cards can, but having one just in the camera, because you've got the slot there anyway, it makes sense as a backup. It's a really affordable way to have a backup media just in case things go wrong, just in case your CFast card reader breaks and you can't get access to another one, or your SSD fills up and you end up shooting more than you expected. Just keeping a 256 gig SD card in the camera ready to go at any time is just a handy little backup just in case anything else happens. Okay, it may mean you have to drop resolution, or you may have to drop the bit rate, maybe shoot ProRes instead, but you'll still get incredibly good quality out of the Blackmagic cameras, even shooting to an SD card. Next up, probably the most popular option when it comes to recording media for the Blackmagic cameras is the Samsung SSD. Now you can use various different SSDs, you don't have to use Samsung, but I think these have become most popular because manufacturers like Tilta, SmallRig have really made sort of a market for ways of attaching them to your camera rigs, which is great. And that's really handy that there's a way of attaching these because, by default, they're not that great in terms of using on location and on shoots. You need something to really secure them and secure the USB-C that's on the side. And that really is its biggest flaw. Having a USB-C connection that is exposed like it is on these SSDs and on the side of the camera does open up some risk when, say, doing handheld work in maybe slightly more challenging environments. I think it's fine if you're on a tripod or in a studio environment. I wouldn't have a problem with it there. But I know when we started out with Blackmagic 4Ks, we went straight to using these SSDs. And although they are great in terms of storage space and the write speeds, you'll have no issues recording at high bit rates with one of these SSDs. You do have to be aware that the cable may get damaged or knocked while shooting, and that could cause the footage to corrupt potentially in the camera. And that's something you really don't want to be happening when shooting something quite critical. Obviously the large storage space, and especially the value for money per gigabyte you get out of these, is absolutely incredible. And if you're doing something long form on a tripod, I'd feel quite comfortable using them. However, because of the kind of risky nature of having it attached to the camera when shooting handheld, personally, I'm not a fan of using these nowadays for actually shooting. That said, they are brilliant for backing up. They are so fast for backing up, especially if you're using a MacBook with Thunderbolt 3. And I think just combining one of these with your Blackmagic camera is a really useful thing to have. It's a great thing to edit off. And actually, having one with you, you can obviously use it as a way of backing up your footage at the end of the day. But what's great, because of the options Blackmagic give you, you can also plug it into the camera. Say once again, you run out of space on your other memory cards, you can then use this as an emergency backup. So I wouldn't be completely against using these. I just think you've got to be a little bit cautious about the situations that you use them in. So finally, the last option you've got is CFast cards. Now, these are far more expensive. You know, per gigabyte, this is the most expensive way to shoot, which is frustrating because they are probably the most reliable way to shoot. And going to give you all the speed options that you need in terms of higher bit rates and higher frame rates. Why I like using them is just purely for the fact that it's inside the camera. I think when you're shooting, you want to make sure you have at least a number of risk factors possible. You know, you don't want to have, like I said with the SSDs, risk of the cable falling out or buffering issues maybe with the SD cards, things like that. You want to have something that's really reliable, and having a fast memory card that stays inside the camera, is behind that door, protecting it from dust, protecting it from being knocked, I think it's just a much more sensible way to go. I think when you're shooting professionally, that reliability and that safety is really, really key. Now I understand it's not affordable, and to be honest, if you're getting these, you really need to get a 512 gigabyte one to really make sure you cover a whole day without any issues. A 128 really isn't enough, unfortunately. So I know in the UK it's about £500 for a 512 gigabyte CFast card, which is very expensive when you consider you can buy a Samsung SSD of the same sort of size for around 70. So it is a big investment if you go down this route. You obviously will have to buy as well the CFast card reader, which is another expense you have to add on. But I think for that reliability and safety, it's certainly worth the consideration. So I hope you have found this video useful. As you can see, I'm a fan of all three options for different purposes. And personally, if you can afford it, I would go with all three because I think all three offer different solutions for different scenarios and will cover you in terms of having really good backup options in case you fill up a card or you lose the memory card or it breaks. Then you've always got another option to go to. You know, if you've got a CFast card and an SD card in your camera, if the CFast card fills up, great, you've still got an SD card. You may only be able to shoot in HD or you might only be able to shoot in 4K ProRes, but that's fine. It's better than not having the option at all. If you're starting out, I can totally understand spending like 500 quid on a memory card really isn't maybe the best option, and in which case then go for the Samsung SSDs. Be careful when using them. You know, you've got to be careful with the USB-C, but in terms of affordability, they are really hard to beat. And they're worth buying. You know, if you pick up one 1 terabyte one of these, or a 2 terabyte especially, even if you then move on to CFast cards in the future, these are going to be so useful for data transfers, for editing off on the go, that I think long term they'll hold their value. You know, we're still using these SSDs that we initially bought for the Blackmagic 4K. We're not using with the cameras anymore, but we're using them for on-shoot backups and then as edit drives when we get back from the shoots. So I hope you have found that useful, and if you have, please like and subscribe because there's plenty more content like that on its way. And I'd love to know and hear from yourselves. What do you think? What do you think is the best option when it comes to media storage? Is there one out there that you feel is a better option? Is there a better memory card brand or a better SSD over these? And have you found a solution that really protects the USB-C, for example? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on all of that. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.